My name is Robert Dellner, and the organization is Fortis Bank, which became BNP Paribas Fortis. And the context is the corporate bank where we worked with the relationship management team on a program called Deepening the Relationship. The catalyst for change was really when people had gone to the Deepening the Relationship program, came back to the organization. They realized that the organization itself, its operational procedures and the way it was doing business was actually not aligned with the new learning that had been created through the program. This program was an 18-day program. Half of it was developmental from a personal perspective, and the other half was technical. So when people came back, there was a sense of frustration, really, that they had learned all these new things, how to do things better, but the organization itself had stayed the same. The leader appointment was essentially when the CEO of the bank realized that the change program itself had to happen in conjunction with the program, what was going on outside. So the Deepening the Relationship program, what people took back with them, had to also change inside the organization simultaneously. It may sound obvious, but the culture itself was such that people kept doing what they were doing. And the small amount of people that came back from each cohort of program essentially were not big enough to change the culture itself. So I was appointed within the bank to help to change the inside of the organization to be aligned with what was actually being asked from people to change. The breakthroughs were really in and around the way clients reacted to the change within our organization. So when clients became aware that the bank had become much more responsive, much more aligned with their values, much more relationship driven, much more trustworthy, understanding of their needs, both in terms of services and also in terms of relationship, the behavior of the clients themselves also changed to the benefit of the bank. It was gradual, but it took about 18 to 24 months to double what we would call the cross-sell ratio. So this was the ratio of revenue which was not directly attributable to income from interest or loans, essentially, which is the staple product for, obviously, for a corporate bank. When that started to happen, people across the organization realized there was something positive happening here. It was particularly done within the UK area, with the UK clients, where we had a lot of buy-in, both from the leaders of that particular team, but also from the whole environment and team within the UK. The catalyst for me as a leader was essentially that I had the freedom and autonomy to work for the CEO to implement and change the flywheel inside the organization and remove the barriers which was preventing the organization and the culture to change. We had to shift some of the aspects of how people were remunerated, how people were dealt with, how people accounted for client activity. So it was as much of an inside job to change the organization itself, how they had created their policies and procedures, as well as making sure that the culture was now aligned and was moving forward in a positive way towards more and deeper relationship with our clients. The biggest insight was essentially that everything is possible once you start working with culture itself. Once you take a view that culture is the operationalization of an institution anyhow. It exists. Unfortunately, for many banks, for many financial services institutions, culture is not something they work with very openly. They believe that they understand culture within the organization, but they truly don't know how the operations are affected and created by the culture which is in existence. And until you know where you are, you have very little ability to create a journey to where you want to go. We had to take some difficult decisions, both in terms of suitability, in terms of people, what clients we were actually going to engage with. We had to make a strategic decision to only engage with clients who really wanted to have a deep relationship with us as well. We needed to create the kind of teamwork and the kind of, I would say, reciprocity within these teams, that value could be created within the client team itself, and there would be a fair and distributable way to account for that value going forward. For me, it was the understanding that culture, in essence, of an organization is the collective psychology. And it's a function of growing the individual within that organization and the leadership team around it, in parallel with changing the organization itself. They have to happen in parallel, they have to happen simultaneously, and you have to become very aware of the alignment. So what I would call to create a sort of positive flywheel within the organization, where the shifts are taking place, both from the operational perspective, from a production perspective, and also in line with the way you see the culture changing. And to me, that was the biggest breakthrough, that I, as an individual, can only go as far as my own developmental capacity. The key learning aspect is that culture itself is like any other asset of an organization. It is the repository of all values and beliefs that the organization have at a collective level and its leadership. Culture needs to be addressed like any other assets, i.e. you need to understand where you are, what the culture is like, what are the values and beliefs that are driving this organization, and then as a leadership team you need to take a tactical and a strategic approach working with that culture towards the objectives and the long-term goals and aspirations that that organization wish to become going forward in the future.